I'm Mark with Alter Ego Comics. I'm flying solo tonight here at Alter Ego with Behind the Counter. Peanut is under the weather, so we're going to try this with me going solo. We're a week behind where we wanted to be because we had some conflicts in filming last week and we missed jumping on the Civil War #4 bandwagon. So maybe we'll start this episode talking about the infamous Civil War #4 delayed 2 months for artistic integrity reasons. And everyone was anxious about this one last week. Definitely an interesting read, probably a good read, fits in fairly well with the rest of the Civil War series. I guess we can flash the spoiler alert at this point. If you haven't read Civil War #4, you may as well stop watching at this point and come back in about 3 or 4 minutes. But a number of big things happen in Civil War #4. First and foremost, a character gets killed by a hero, a so-called hero, and Marvel really hyped this up. They told all retailers to tell our customers to avoid watching the news that morning if they didn't want it to be spoiled. And then when we got the book and we checked it out, the character that dies is Black Goliath, or in the PC world now, just Goliath. And frankly, from what I can tell, a lot of people don't care that Black Goliath died. Myself included. Sorry, Tony Isabella, if you're watching this. I know you're in Ohio and you created Black Goliath, but it just felt forced. They kind of pushed the character in issue #1, and he showed up in Dan Slott's run on The Thing. It felt like they just brought him back only to kill him. The character hasn't been around in Marvel Comics for quite a while, introduced in the 70s if I'm not mistaken. And the character that kills him is Thor, but not just Thor, a clone of Thor, or as the folks on the Newsarama boards are referring to him as Clor. So that was the big surprise, was that a clone of Thor ends up killing Black Goliath. And on a scale of 1 to 10, as far as interesting things, that's probably down at about a 2 or a 3 as far as I'm concerned. Some other things that happened in it which were maybe unexpected. Again, we find out that the Thor that shows up at the end of issue 3 is actually a clone, and by the end of issue 4, the Fantastic Four is now a Fantastic One with Sue and Johnny Storm, or Sue Richards and Johnny Storm, defecting to Captain America's side, The Thing taking a leave of absence, and Reed Richards playing Mad Scientist along with Tony Stark on the Pro Registration side. So great issue, or a good issue of a great series, and hopefully #5 kind of springs back to where it should be. They also introduce a masked character in a ski mask that's supposed to be a pivotal character in the Civil War books. Some guesses as to who it might be, but no one knows for sure. So Civil War 4, out last week. Go to your local comic store, pick it up, or come into Alter Ego Comics here in Lima. We've got copies available. This week was a huge week for comics. We just had so much good stuff come out. People walking out with armloads of new books. The newest issue of 52, which is a fantastic series from DC Comics. Now that Civil War 4 is out, Marvel's kind of opened the floodgates with their Civil War tie-ins. Amazing Spider-Man number 535, which is a Civil War tie-in, kind of shows us that Spider-Man may have been on the wrong side, and he's starting to think about maybe jumping ship. And Iron Man doesn't necessarily want Peter to leave his side, so we'll see what happens with that. The new issue of Batman, Grant Morrison's run on that, great book there. What else? Captain America and Cable Deadpool were both Civil War tie-ins. Had a chance to check out the Captain America, great book if you're not reading it. Civil War Frontline, another Civil War book. Civil War Young Avengers Runaway is #3 of that 4-issue limited series. A book that a lot of people may not be reading, CSI Dying in the Gutters, which is from IDW, focuses on gossip columnist Rich Johnston, comic gossip columnist, getting killed at a comic convention, and all the suspects are comic creators. So if you like CSI, if you're into behind the scenes on comics, definitely check that out. Daredevil 89, great stuff from Ed Brubaker and Michael Lark. You definitely want to get into Daredevil if you're not. The first trade comes out in a couple of weeks, collecting Brubaker's beginning of his run on that book, so check that out. What else do we have? Heroes for Hire #2, which is another Civil War tie-in. Big one, Justice League of America #2. Brad Meltzer and Ed Benes on this book. One of the best books out there right now, whether you're a DC fan or not. Oddly enough, Brad Meltzer had the #1 comic book in the country last month and the #1 book in the country. So what are the odds of that happening? Check that one out. What else did we have? Some other big ones that came out. Oddly enough, Stan Lee meets Spider-Man. Marvel's doing a whole run of Stan Lee meets, and he's meeting a number of the characters that he helped create or created. And the first one out of the gate is Spider-Man. I was pretty skeptical about this when it came out, but I did read it yesterday, and it is pretty good. There are two kind of Stan Lee in the real world or in the comic world stories. The first one, I'm drawing a blank, is actually by Stan Lee. He does the writing on it, and it's Spider-Man coming to Stan Lee for some advice, and it's kind of a goofy little story. The artwork is nice, though. It's, what is it, Olivier Coipel, the guy who did House of M, the guy's name I can't pronounce. But you get your money's worth out of this with the second story by Joss Whedon and Michael Gaydos. It is very cool. It is a comic convention that takes place. It's an interdimensional comic book convention. So you've got you're following basically a comic dealer and his counterparts from other dimensions talking about how comics are in their dimension. And there are some really laugh out loud funny parts in this. Whedon, of course, is a great writer, so it's worth your money to pick this up just for that. Plus, there's a cool reprint of Stan Lee and John Romita on Amazing Spider-Man. I believe it's number 89. So definitely check that out. Other big stuff. I mean, there are really just so many titles. Teen Titans, Supergirl. New for Buffy fans, a new Spike miniseries from IDW called Spike Asylum. What else? Ultimates 2, number 12, finally came out. It was supposed to be out, what, like 6 months ago? It finally came out. A lot of positive buzz on that. Ultimate Spider-Man number 100, a huge milestone for that series. Same writer and artist from issue number 1 through number 100, and a fantastic book if you're not reading it. The new Wizard magazine came out. The latest volume of Walking Dead Volume 5, came out, and we actually sold out of it this week. We had a number of copies of the trade paperback come in, and just a lot of Walking Dead fans out there that are picking it up as a trade. Finally, we got some cool new action figures this week from DC Direct. DC Direct has released their first wave of Infinite Crisis figures featuring Power Girl, Superboy Prime, Alexander Luthor, and OMAC, and a big old Mongol. That has got to be the biggest figure that DC Direct has released so far. Lots of plastic in that one, but a lot of plastic in the Power Girl too, if you know what I'm saying. But anyway, these are really cool. They're selling really well in the store here. And DC Direct is really firing on all cylinders. They've got a lot of great releases coming up. They just announced a series of 52 figures, so the first series of that, and they're doing a second series of Infinite Crisis featuring some very cool, I guess, different poses on classic figures. They've kind of got a battle-damaged Batman, a Superman in flight, Wonder Woman with a cape, and a couple different versions of Donna Troy, one as Wonder Girl and one as Donna Troy. So lots of cool stuff with that. In the realm of entertainment, Smallville premieres tonight. You guys are going to watch this after that, but definitely check that one out. I'm sure we'll be talking about that maybe next week. And another thing, I guess, that ties in with Mr. Whedon, a new prop replica company is on the scene called Quantum Mechanics. Their site is quantummechanicswithanx.com, and we actually are going to be carrying their products. A couple of their new Serenity props are Mal Reynolds' a pistol from Serenity, and they've got some very cool money pouches from Serenity as well. And they're doing Battlestar Galactica, they're doing Universal Monsters, very cool stuff. So a new prop replica company on the scene called Quantum Mechanics. We're excited to be carrying their stuff. I guess that's going to be it for this week. We will be back hopefully next week with more comic goodness. See ya.